Come here a minute. See this green valve stem cap here? It means two things. One, this tire's been filled with nitrogen gas. And two, the person who owns this tire might have got ripped off. My name's Jeff. I'm the Gearhead Skeptic.
My pap said, son, you're gonna drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
Oh, hi there. If you've been shopping for new tires in the last couple of years, you've probably heard something about the benefits of nitrogen gas to fill those tires. After all, the benefits sound pretty good. The cost is low in comparison to 4 new tires, mounting, balancing, environmental fees, and probably more. And why not, right? After all, your car deserves the best, and so do you. Well, let's take a closer look at those ideas and see if it's worth your money. So what's the big deal with nitrogen? What does the average person on the street know about nitrogen-filled tires? To find out, I went to a local car show and asked some car guys.
Oh, I've heard that they don't, the molecules are bigger so they don't leak, they don't lose pressure as much.
Yeah. According to the engineers, leaks out at a slower rate than air.
It was supposed to make the tires run cooler. There wasn't as much loss of air pressure in the tires.
That sounds interesting. To find out what the people selling nitrogen are saying about it, I went to a local dealership and asked the service counter dude for a quick education in nitrogen-filled tires, and recorded every word he said.
Nitrogen is just a less expensive gas. The only difference is standard oxygen. Nitrogen has a very different temperature range. It has to hit like -50 for it to start to contract, and it has to hit like +50 for it to expand.
Really?
Yeah. So the difference is because it's a thicker and heavier molecule, it can't escape and it can't expand.
Well, this is sounding better and better all the time. But before you empty your wallet, let's see if these ideas stand up to some simple high school science. So the unstated major premise in all this is that nitrogen gas is somehow significantly different and better than regular air for filling tires. So how much nitrogen is in regular air?
Now, I don't know what the parts per million for, I mean, it's got to be out there.
5%?
Would it surprise you to learn it's closer to 80% pure nitrogen?
Yes.
Yeah?
It surprised me a lot.
That's right, the air around you right now is mostly nitrogen. On average, air at sea level is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% argon, and less than 1% traces of other gases. So the idea that nitrogen gas is significantly different than normal air is wrong. We swim through an ocean of the stuff every day. But still, if air is 78% nitrogen, it's still 22% other stuff, so its physical properties might differ from that of pure nitrogen, right? Well, hold the phone there, Zippy. Are nitrogen-filled tires really filled with nitrogen? Before a tire gets mounted on a rim, it's not empty inside. It's filled with ambient air at 1 atmosphere of pressure. Whatever happens to be floating around the room when the wheel and tire get mounted together gets captured inside the tire, and additional gas is pumped in to bring the pressure up. So while nitrogen-filled tires may be filled with nitrogen, they don't contain pure nitrogen. It's sort of like the difference between made with 100% pure beef and made of 100% pure beef. It's cloudy language that marketing weasels hope you aren't smart enough to figure out. Now, assuming the best you can hope for is about 95% nitrogen in your tires, let's take a look at the two main claims here. First, nitrogen is a bigger molecule and won't leak out of the tire like regular air. This is technically true when you're talking about gas molecules migrating in between the polymer chains that make up the rubber in a tire. Despite its heavier atomic weight, oxygen is actually a physically smaller molecule than nitrogen. Now, oxygen will migrate through the sidewall of a tire more rapidly than nitrogen. This much is true. However, It's far more likely that pressure loss in a tire is due to a poor seal around the bead or a fault at the valve. And in those cases, molecular size won't help you at all. If molecular migration through the wall of a tire is really a concern, then why not fill your tires with a really large molecule gas like propane? No, wait, don't fill your tires with propane. That's dumb. Also, assuming the gas molecules migrating through the tire is the only real source of pressure loss, it's going to be the oxygen molecules that make their way out first, increasing the percentage of nitrogen inside your tires. If you just top them up with regular air and wait for more oxygen to float away, top them up again, eventually you'll have a nitrogen-filled tire for free. And none of the marketing materials seem to mention this. So the second claim here is that nitrogen gas doesn't expand when it's heated like normal air does, and your tires will maintain a constant pressure over a larger range of temperatures. Let's go to the whiteboard for this one. Okay, think back to high school science class where we learned the ideal gas law. PV equals nRT. Pressure times volume equals the number of gas molecules times the ideal gas constant times temperature. So when we're talking about a sealed tire increasing in temperature, the volume of the tire remains constant. The number of gas molecules inside the tire remains constant. R is always a constant. So as temperature increases, pressure must increase. So the idea that nitrogen gas doesn't expand when it gets hot is just plain wrong. Now, the ideal gas law is just an approximation of how most gases behave. To really compare the physical properties of nitrogen and oxygen, we need to use a more precise version of this called van der Waals equation. Give me a minute to write this one out. This version of the gas law introduces two new variables, A and B, where A is a measure of the attraction between the gas molecules, and B is a measure of the volume taken up by one molecule. Now, we can save ourselves a whole lot of math here by just comparing the values of A and B. The values of A and B for nitrogen and oxygen are pretty much the same to within 2 decimal places. While neither nitrogen nor oxygen behave exactly like an ideal gas, their deviations from ideality are virtually identical. So the thermal expansion properties of pure nitrogen is pretty much identical to that of regular air. So the major claims of nitrogen-filled tires, that of more consistent tire pressures and less pressure leak down, are meant to sound appealing to us because it's one less thing to worry about with your car. It's one less thing to have to check and maintain. The majority of the motoring public want to think of their cars as a household appliance, something that does its job with little or no maintenance required from us. They want to drive their refrigerators. Now, I understand that desire, but I think that anything that gets people to pay less attention to the mechanical condition of their car is a bad idea. If your refrigerator breaks down, no one's life is jeopardized. Pay attention to the mechanical condition of your car and check your tire pressures once a month. In Canada, cars have their steering wheels on the left-hand side, just like America. But we don't drive on the right-hand side of the road. We drive right down the middle and just take turns. That's a Canadian fact. So what's the bottom line here? The type of compressed gas you choose to fill your tires with is far less important than keeping them properly checked and maintained. If anything, water vapor contamination in the air in your tires is going to cause a lot more pressure fluctuation with temperature change than any of the gas will. But I had to dig pretty far and deep to find that even mentioned in any of the sales literature for nitrogen tires. If you live in an area with high humidity, just make sure that the air compressor you use to fill your tires has an inline dryer and you should be fine. I suggest you do what I do and buy your nitrogen in Guinness cans. When the rubber meets the road, nitrogen-filled tires, it's just a lot of hot air.
This episode is brought to you by Bigfoot Diapers, keeping Sasquatch poop hidden for over a century.
To comment on this episode, view bonus content, or submit story ideas, join us on the blog at thegearheadskeptic.wordpress.com. Thanks for watching.
Have you heard the story of the hot rod race where the Fords and the Lincolns was setting the pace? Well, that story's true, cause I'm here to say I was driving that Model A. It's got a Lincoln motor and it's really souped up, and that Model 8 body makes it look like a pup. It's got 8 cylinders, uses them all, got overdrive.